How do you walk into a surprise party and leave with your life shattered? Clarice stepped into her home on the evening of her 53rd birthday, expecting warmth, laughter, maybe her son with a goofy cake. But what she saw instead stopped her mid-step. Pink and gold streamers curled from the chandelier she had handpicked 25 years ago. The dining table was set with her mother's wedding china, the set she only brought out for special moments. The room was softly lit, almost dreamy, but it wasn't beautiful, it was unnerving. Everyone froze when she entered. Zuri, her daughter-in-law, was the first to break the silence. Surprise, she chirped, arms outstretched like she had just won a game Clarice didn't know she was playing. Clarice's smile faltered as she scanned the room. Her neighbor, Mrs. Henderson, gripped her wineglass too tightly. Her sister Janet refused to meet her eyes. And Abram, her husband of 25 years, stood near the fireplace like a guest in his own home. Clarice's chest tightened. "Where's Michael?" she asked quietly, trying to ground herself in something real. Why would her son, who never missed a single birthday, be gone tonight of all nights? Zuri's smile didn't even flicker. "Business trip. But don't worry. We've got it covered." She took Clarice's elbow gently, yet with a grip that felt like control. "Come, sit. I made your favorite cake." Clarice hesitated. The cake looked perfect, store-bought perfect. Her heart thudded. She sat at the head of the table, feeling like a guest in her own life. Then Abram cleared his throat. Clarice turned toward him, but his eyes darted away. Zuri reached into her designer purse and slid a manila envelope in front of her like it held a bomb. "We thought it would be best to do this with everyone here," she said sweetly. "So there are witnesses." Clarice opened the envelope slowly. The moment her eyes landed on the words, "dissolution of marriage," her hands began to tremble. How do you react when your husband and daughter-in-law tell you they're getting married? Clarice looked up. Abram placed both hands on Zuri's shoulders. The intimacy made her stomach churn. "We're getting married," Zuri said, glowing like a bride. There was silence. Janet looked like she might cry. Mrs. Henderson suddenly found the bottom of her glass fascinating. Everyone waited for Clarice to break. But she didn't. She placed the papers neatly back in the envelope. She looked at Zuri, whose smile was a little too sharp, and said evenly, "Well, I hope you'll be very happy together." Zuri's face twitched. She wasn't expecting that. "That's it?" she asked, voice brittle. Clarice stood calmly, picked up her purse, and walked toward the door. What do you do when the home you built becomes a crime scene of betrayal? She paused at the door, took one final look at the room that used to be hers, her memories, her life. "Enjoy the cake," she said without turning around. "I hope it tastes as sweet as you imagined." And then, she stepped outside. The night was cold, the driveway empty, and her chest, strangely, light. Because sometimes, freedom wears the mask of heartbreak. Who was sleeping in her house? Wearing her robe? Living her life? Clarice sat on the edge of the hotel bed, still wearing yesterday's dress. The air reeked of disinfectant and disappointment. Her phone buzzed again. Janet's third message. "Please, just call me. We're worried." But Clarice didn't reply. Her mind was spinning, not with grief, but with suspicion. Something didn't add up. Not just the sudden divorce or the cruel party. It was Michael's absence. The cold distance in Abram's eyes. Zuri's confidence. Why was Zuri so calm, so prepared? What did she know that Clarice didn't? The next morning, Clarice drove back home just after 8 a.m., not to fight, just to collect a few things. But the moment she stepped inside, she froze. Zuri descended the stairs, barefoot, wrapped in Clarice's favorite silk robe, like it was hers. Her expression, cool, composed, fake concern painted on her face. "Oh, Clarice," she said. "You should have called. Abram thought it might be best if you made a list of what you need. We'll pack it for you." There it was again. That quiet power. That tone that dismissed her like she didn't matter. Clarice's voice was calm. "Of course. How thoughtful of you both." But her mind was racing. Why would Zuri want her out so fast? And why was everything already replaced? She didn't go to the master bedroom. Instead, she walked to the guest room, the one space Zuri wouldn't have touched yet. As she opened the closet, memories rushed back. She reached for an old file box tucked behind blankets, tax returns, insurance documents, birth records, years of carefully kept order. Then her fingers brushed something odd, a thick manila folder wedged behind the lining. Inside. Chaos, photos, articles, documents, a mugshot, a name, Zara Petrosky, not Zuri, Zara, a list of aliases, 5 different names, 3 ex-husbands, 2 fraud charges, 1 prison sentence. Clarice stared at the photo. That was her. Same eyes, same smile. Sam Khan. Who had she really let into her family? And how long had she been planning this? Clarice didn't cry. She copied the contents and locked them in her purse. She went back to the hotel, found the number of a private investigator she had once met at a fundraiser, and dialed a need background on someone, she said, her voice steady. And I think you're going to want to hear this. Within 48 hours, she had everything. Zuri, or rather, Zara, was a career con artist. She married wealthy men, drained their accounts, and disappeared with luxury cars and vintage jewelry. She'd moved through states, identities, and even court cases like a ghost. And now, she had her claws in Clarice's family. Was it money she wanted this time, or something more personal? Clarice printed every document, every alias, every mugshot. She stared at Zara's face and whispered, "You picked the wrong woman this time." The game had changed. What happens when the victim starts hunting the predator? Clarice wasn't just betrayed now. She was awake, and she was going to burn everything Zara had built down to ashes. What does justice look like when no one believes you deserve it anymore? Clarice stood at the mirror, fixing the clasp of the same pearl necklace Zuri once mocked. The reflection staring back at her wasn't the broken woman who walked out of that party. This was a woman sharpened by betrayal. And she wasn't just fighting for herself anymore. She was fighting for every woman who'd been told to move on and let it go. Today, she was going to bring it all down. At 11:07 a.m., she entered the bank, cool.com, calculated and greeted the teller with a gentle smile. Her wedding ring sparkled under the lights, a mask for the fury that simmered beneath. "I'd like to make a withdrawal," she said, sliding her ID across the counter. "Everything. From our joint accounts." Why was Zuri so confident when the ground beneath her was already crumbling? Clarice didn't flinch as the teller counted the digits. Over $600,000. Money she helped earn, save and grow. She had every legal right. The account was still under both their names. It was the last card she needed to play before the checkmate. By 1 p.m., she was in her lawyer's office. She dropped a thick envelope onto the oak desk. Copies of forged IDs, screenshots of bank transfers, records of Zuri's other victims. The lawyer looked up, stunned. "Are you sure you want to go through with this?" Clarice's eyes didn't blink. "She didn't just take my husband, she took my dignity. Now I'm taking everything else." That evening, while Zuri lounged in Clarice's robe, sipping champagne in her home, the doorbell rang. Abram, half asleep on the couch, groaned. He opened the door. "What do you do when the woman you trusted isn't who she says she is?" FBI. Open up. Flashlights, footsteps. Cold metal on warm wrists. Zuri's shriek echoed through the halls as agents read her rights. "This is a mistake. I'm the wife. She framed me." But Michael, Clarice's son, stood at the top of the stairs, pale and shaking, watching the lie collapse. He said nothing, but he didn't look away. In the days that followed, everything unraveled. Bankruptcies were filed. Michael moved out. Abram, humiliated and jobless, faced lawsuits from scams. Clarice. She disappeared for a while. Where does a woman go? After burning down the life that tried to bury her, she went to Tuscany, learned to cook with her hands again. She painted in Barcelona, found peace and color. She opened a boutique, not for profit, but for purpose, for power. Under her name, Clarice Wells. People asked her if she missed him, or if she regretted it. She smiled. What's more powerful than forgiveness? A woman who doesn't need to give it. And in her boutique, behind the register, there sat a framed headline. Con artist Zara Petrosky, sentenced to 12 years in federal prison. Clarice didn't frame her. She just revealed her. This was just the beginning. But what happened after Zara's arrest will leave you speechless. Did Clarice finally find peace, or was the storm far from over? Comment below. Was justice truly served? And tell me, which city are you watching from? Let's see how far Clarice's voice can reach. Subscribe for Chapter 4 because trust me, the real twist is yet to come.